Today is August 24th. This is Dylan Almendraw interviewing Ivana Unger in the Santa Ana History Room at the Santa Ana Public Library.
I was born in Czechoslovakia, unfortunately too long ago, 1936.
Okay.
My father was aircraft engineer for owner of Bata, which was in that time the probably biggest shoemaker. And my father built a aircraft, or I should say, small plane for him. So, and then we moved to Prague to live there. In 1937.
Okay.
The German invasion was terrible. Nobody likes it in Czechoslovakia. But maybe worse was the invasion of Russians in 1968. They hold Czechoslovakia,
Okay.
thanks to President Roosevelt, who was together with Stalin and unfortunately Winston Churchill established the line.
Gotcha.
And made us, unfortunately,
part of the
Eastern
USSR.
Europe.
Okay.
Yeah. Seeing the American bombs falling in front of my eyes, but I should say, we were very happy with it because it was almost the end of Second War, and we knew that there will be different life after it. There was a revolution going on in Prague, which I do not understand till today why was it going on, but for 4 days they were killings and...
Immediately after the war?
Yeah.
Well, okay, were they...
It started on May 5th and ended May 9th when Russians deliberated Czechoslovakia. There was probably no special reason for killings, but they were killing each other.
It was chaos.
Absolutely.
Wow.
4 days, yeah. My mother went to a hospital to work as a nurse, even though she was not established nurse. And I don't even know what my father was doing, but probably somewhere he was helping. Oh, I know, he was helping to get people from ruins after the bombings. No, we did have a help in the households, and I was left with her and my brother.
Okay.
It's an absolutely different school system than here in the United States. So we were going for kind of like basic school for 9 years. And then I tried to get into a nursing school, but my father was jailed in 1951. And I did not go to any school ever. They decided that they need his position because he was in high position in one of our ministries, or I'm not able to say it properly, sorry. But they says that he did do a treason and he was spying. Nobody knows. He was supposed to be there for 18 years, but fortunately there was a moment when there came new president and he did, the name of it I forgot, but he left my father go home. Never ever. They were called STB, which means State Secret Police.
And in English, that would be STB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
No worries, no worries. You can speak Czechoslovakian, it's fine.
I met my husband in 1955, and we got married in 1957. Oldrich.
Oldrich, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's the sh which nobody knows how to pronounce but Czechs.
Okay. Now,
like in Dvořák.
what?
Dvořák.
What's that?
That's a Czech composer, very famous because he wrote a symphony from a new world.
Wow.
And I recommend you to listen to it. My husband was in city of Karlovy Vary, which is very famous spa, and he was there as a serviceman, soldier,
Okay.
because in Czechoslovakia there was draft, and everyone above 18 years old have to go to
into the service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
Very lucky.
And I went there and we met, and
Okay.
then we were together for 59 years. Yes, and David was 17 when we were leaving Czechoslovakia. You should have listened to it, even if it's in Czech. It was so good, so famous that my husband got few awards, or should say many awards for it. It was program mostly about nature, and also some science. It was for kids from 8 years old till more than 15, but because it was the only program on radio, you were educated. So that was listened by people all age ranges. (1963). It's going on till today.
Wow.
There was a change in the radio station. One of the redactor or journalist has to leave, and they hire Aldrich, who was working in one station in South Bohemia. And then because Aldrich was absolute freak of nature, they find out that it would be nice to do this program named Meteor. Aldrich was
Still
in Prague
military?
radio as a
Okay.
journalist,
Okay.
having his own show for an hour every Saturday. And I was working in the film industry and later in editing room as a first assistant to editor. Documentary,
Okay.
mostly.
Now,
Very interesting things. Very much so. We could not do anything on our own. We were fortunate that we were working those two fields. There was a pressure, but not as in other fields. So we felt a little bit free-like, but not much. No. My husband was. I don't know, 7, 8. You never get used to it. It's very unpleasant experience. But this happened after we signed a Charter 77, which was a very polite ask to our government to make socialism with a human face. And it was absolute tragedy for all of us who signed it, because they saw it as almost a treason to sign such a document. In 1977.
okay.
You are laughing, and it's...
I didn't get the context.
No, I have to tell you, even people were signing even in those years after, because they made a anti-Charter 77 thing when everyone working has to sign this, that he does not agree with Charter 77. Everyone has to sign it.
A loyalty oath.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Loyalty to communist regime.
Okay.
Not to mention, Aldrich became also a member of the theater in Prague, which plays till today. I was there in June to celebrate 50 years anniversary.
Wow.
And it was so good that they opened the selling of the tickets, and in about a few minutes it's
Wow.
sold.
So he was also an actor.
Yeah. We have our own, sorry, and then Aldrich got car from radio because he did get some time off to be able to record sounds of nature and birds and bugs and everyone.
From the car?
You know, he had to go around Czechoslovakia, so
okay.
they let him have this absolutely. To be able to live like kind of some middle class then, you have to be a really good member of Communist Party.
Okay.
You were benefited. You benefit from this. But underneath, people were so unhappy because the regime was really, really oppressive. My father was there.
Oh. Oh, yes.
And we were allowed to talk to him for 20 minutes, and we had to stand behind the wall
Okay.
and to travel for 7 hours to get there. Once in a year. Yeah. We did not have a job, so we a little bit later applied for immigration's visas. And you cannot even imagine how proud we were that we were able to say aloud what we are applying for, because people they're really scared about everything. And then we have to write every month new letter to the president and the minister of STB. So, because we were promised that in about 2 months we will get result and we will be left to go. But it took them a year, and we, in that time when we were allowed to leave Czechoslovakia, but only to the Austria, not anywhere else, we were really scared that we did not have enough money to feed our sons. And there was nothing in the apartment we were living in because we were selling everything to have money for food. But they know because they were going into our apartment freely when we were out.
Wow.
13 months we were there. We were very lucky that we were able to go there, but those Austrians did not like immigrants because there was too many of them and some did not behave. So I cannot say that. To United States in 1980. In Austria, we find a company who arranged for us to come here, and even we were able to go to learn English because as we did not speak German, we have to learn there in Austria because they speak German language. And then coming here, we started to learn English because we did not speak this language. Hard. But it was hard because we felt like dummies. We spoke quite a lovely Czech language. And then here we were not able to express ourselves or to communicate in the beginning. But then after we learned a little bit, we were. Oh yes.
Do you remember?
I'm trying to speak to Czech to my sons so they will not forget, but David was 17 and twins were 14. Mostly we were listening to classical music. I did know the poetry, because there were some really good poets in Czechoslovakia, but we tried to learn everything possible, every other culture, because we worked in.
So under oppression, you studied and you had a hunger for learning the world around you. Okay.
Very much so. I think it was hard for them, but they still refused to talk to me about it. They had their friends there, they were used to it, but fortunately they know that they will not be allowed to work in a field they decide to work in, because we were dissidents. There was no space for us, nothing practically. I doubt it. We were so happy when we came here that we almost forgot all the oppression.
Gotcha.
To New York.
And what was that like?
We were there living in Queens for almost a year, but before in 1980 you were not able to get any job. Not to mention we were asked if we have American experience when we applied.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get only a job after a year, and I came to LA with help of my friends, because my language was not the best, so they helped me. And we went to an agency who was hiring people for domestic chores.
Okay.
And there we get job, I should say, immediately. I was not even able to return to New York.
Wow.
I had to start the same day.
Wow.
And then we worked for 3 rich families, which was not what we think we will be doing, but we did not go on welfare, which was the most important for us. Start in Santa Ana.
Oh, wow. What families?
There was a family of Mr. James Douglas. Then the second one was Mr. Ross Cortese, who was the owner of all the leisure wards around.
Wow. Okay.
And then the last job was for Millhouse family, who was kind of, yeah. We were together 24/7.
Wow. Okay.
No, for boys we had to get a apartment, and they went to school, to high school, and start to play football. They get to Orange High. David did not graduate because he came here and he was 17 years old,
Okay.
so he got job
Okay.
and was working as a car mechanic.
Okay.
And twins went to Orange High and they graduated 2 years after. But then they went to a college, and then Dominic went to SMU to play football, and Daniel started in Fullerton to play football.
Very cool.
And I love this sport. David is 57 and twins are 54. Only David,
Okay.
the oldest.
Okay.
He lives in Huntington Beach.
Okay.
But twins first twin, Daniel, lives in Layton, Utah, and Dominic lives in Kimberly, Idaho. Now, yeah, they are too far. But all of them are such a good persons that I should even say I'm proud that they are my sons. You cannot even imagine that. I'm trying to kind of give lectures to one who try to listen to me about living in socialism. But it's so hard to explain it that nobody, after 2 minutes, nobody is able to listen to me.
We have time.
I did not like the Nazi regime, but what I really despise of was the socialism, because there was nothing good about it.
Can you expand on that?
For example, healthcare. Where you live, you were assigned to a doctor, and there was nothing for you otherwise. You have to go to this doctor. They did have probably $1 for your care and 2 minutes. That was
For an examination?
for everything.
Wow.
Maybe the surgeries were a little bit longer, but you have to have money to go even to this doctor who was subscribed to you. And if you went for surgery, you have to have much more with you. So, and the care was not the best. My husband, sorry, he almost died because of appendectomy. And so the health care was not good. Maybe the schooling was a little bit better because they were the old traditions. And even though we have in our books, we have to erase the name of our first president. And everything what was good about the time before those communists took over, we have to practically erase from our history. Sometimes we did not even were able to get bread, and we had to. If I was going for some piece of meat, I have to go at 3 o'clock in the morning in the line, and I was not the first one there. It was really, for those who were nomenclatura, which is the people on the top, it was so easy. They even were able to get oranges with the leaves on. But if I went into line to wait for bananas, if they were on the market, I got 3. Yes, but
Everything was controlled.
yes.
So I assume there was a lot of banned books. Okay.
More banned than those who you were able to read.
Okay.
So there was usual that people were lending each other books which you really like to read. But otherwise, I even read a Marx manifest because I was trying to learn and find out why. So. For him, it was easy to write this utopia because he was living as aristocrat. So in Russia, aristocrats were people who were living. Otherwise, they were only dead souls, as Dostoevsky says. It was Russian and it was very often cut off because they, communists made special plans. They were 5 years plans and they plan whatever is necessary for people. So for me to get a needle for sewing was so hard that I have to ask people who were going abroad to bring me one.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really hard to imagine. We got not used to it ever, but we tried to survive, so we learned to do everything possible what we needed. We built our beacon house with those hands because we tried to get out from Prague because Prague was polluted absolutely. It's on the shores of the Vltava River, and so there was smoke like this thick. We were trying to get a little bit better, so we were filling glasses and putting them to wait after the brown dust or whatever was in there was on the bottom.
Oh, for it to settle?
To settle, yeah, and then we were drinking this stuff. We were fortunate that there was a good beer. Not so many did have bicycles because it was commodity, but there was a kind of enough of trams and buses, and even in trolley, but I'm not sure if I said it.
Trolley? Yeah.
Trolley, that we were using because Prague is really very city with very many occupants. So this kind of transportation was available. Not often we were forced to walk, but sometimes we had to walk because there was no transportation. Our space was very small because we were 3 generations live. Yeah, 3 generations living in our apartment. You could not get apartment there if you were not a good member of Communist Party.
Did you leave your parents back in Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, with my mother. When it was necessary, we took Oldrich's grandma and grandpa to live with us, even though
in Czechoslovakia?
In Prague, yeah. I left my brother there only. My mother died a few months before we moved out. But you have to be sure that you do not like your environment so much, then you can leave it behind you. I really liked it before there, but then when the regime was getting even worse, you did not have the same feelings. Oh, not much. We did have only problems with gypsies there. And
What kind of gypsies? Like the wagon cart gypsies, or what like?
every gypsy you can imagine.
What is a gypsy?
Gypsy are practically nomads,
Okay.
but because in Czechoslovakia gypsies were able to get welfare, but not the dissidents, so they were coming in quite good numbers,
Okay.
and they are still. They are still trying to establish themselves, but if you will see how they are able to live in those dilapidated houses, and you could not understand, because they have chance to do much better. I experienced one thing, and it was already in Vienna, where we were living.
Mm-hmm.
The first night, the first morning, we tried to go to get some food for sons. And when I stood in front of a butcher, I cried like if someone is torturing me. I saw things which I would have, or which I could buy. Butcher in Czechoslovakia was usually the man standing behind the counter, but nothing other.
So the shelves were empty?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Very much so. I will tell you this small secret. It's not the nicest, but you have to know. When I did not have any job, I tried to, and I applied in a butcher shop, and I got a job as a dishwasher. But dishwasher meant to go with your hands into the water. And also I was told that if there will be leftovers of a soup which the butcher was selling, I have to put it in a bigger pot, then to cook it over, and then he was selling it again.
Oh, okay. And this was here in the U.S.?
No.
Oh, Czechoslovakia.
Still
Okay.
in Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
Here I learned a lot, because in my second job, or in our second job for Mr. Cortesi, I was his chef.
Oh, okay.
So I learned very much to cook.
What was his favorite food?
I'm sorry?
What was his favorite food?
He was Italian, so
Okay. Italian food.
yeah.
So did you have cookbooks to learn from? Or did you watch like the Cooking Network?
No, I learned from cookbooks.
Okay.
Because if I was tired, I went into cookbooks to get some kind of relief,
Okay.
plus learning. I like to cook paella, for example, which is more like
Cuban food.
not
Yes.
Cuban, Spanish.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Fun.
very exciting food. When we started to work for Mr. Douglas, he gave me a map of city, and he made big cross over Santa Ana, and he says, even though he was living in Santa Ana, but in the hills. And he says, never, ever try to get a house here in Santa Ana. And when we start in 1983 to look for a house, we got our in Washington Square. And I'm so happy because that's the best place to live.
Washington Square is a very, very nice neighborhood.
Oh, yes. '84 we were able to move in.
Okay.
And because it was kind of a rundown house, we work on it. And if Aldrich will be alive, we will be still working on the house.
What year was your house built?
1924.
Wow.
Yeah. Aldrich was sick for at least 5 years. And only in times when he felt a little bit better, he tried to maintain the house, and I was his third hand. But there are no those two prime hands now, so for me it's very hard to even find a help for maintenance and for the front yard and backyard, because I'm getting older. It's hard for me to go to do such a stuff now. After living in Czechoslovakia, it was more than miracle. And we were so happy and working so hard to make it comfortable. Even people who were living here were amazed what we were able to do by our own hands. Santa Ana is my city, and I love to live here. And I am so glad that it's improving. Later, friends of mine are taking me to the restaurants around, so I can even see how it's really much better than when we moved in.
Like on 4th Street?
4th Street, 3rd Street, and all those new establishments. And the 4th Street is looking much better. There was Woolworth, for example, on 4th Street. There was too much Latino influence on that part of the city, so it needed to be somehow allowed even other culture and come in. Unfortunately, it's going on now. You have to know that my husband built a clock hands for the tower.
For the Spurgeon clock?
Yeah.
He built the hands for that?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was able to do almost everything. And this was going on in 90, I'm not sure when we were involved in the restoration of the clock, but it was absolutely lovely job, and he liked it very much. So he is there. He did not even consider leaving Santa Ana, even though he was, after 1989, we were able to go to visit Czechoslovakia, but Aldrich will never go there.
Wow.
Go to United States right away. don't wait as long as we did. But we were sure that we have to show them that we really are leaving because of what they were doing to the Czechoslovakia. So for us to go on vacation and sneak out or not to return was really not to do. We decided that we will show them. So that's why we were loudly asking for the immigration papers.
Yes. I think that's a good place to end. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ivana.
You're welcome.
You are wonderful.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was